Okay, welcome everybody. My name is Matthias Fleck. I'm instructor and mentor at Society3, working for some years now with Axel Schulze and Marita Röpke and Manuela, and helping entrepreneurs around the world, how to get better with their startups, how to go to market, how to develop a vision, and so on. Today, our webinar is to get to know each other and to learn more about the Global Accelerator program that was developed by Axel Schulze. Axel is a well-known entrepreneur. He has had multiple exits with his companies and has helped numerous startups from idea stage to funding to even IPO. So there is a lot of experience in this team, and Axel has broad knowledge from a long time in Silicon Valley, and his emphasis or his idea about startups is basically that once you have a vision and an idea on how to disrupt the market, you have to go to the market very fast. Some even call it Axel speed. So, and the accelerator program is designed with 25 years of experience that Axel had in the Valley. And to learn more about this program in detail and to learn more about how this program really can help you and how you can benefit the most from it, that will Axel now explain you in detail. Axel, are you ready?
Hi, Matthias. I am ready theoretically. Just somebody need to turn my, make me a presenter mode on. Accelerator business, this is actually a good idea because it isn't about how can I build a company, so to speak, and sell more products than others and compete with the rest of the world, because we're so far away from competing, as we have, probably 90% of startups who have either never heard or have no chance to go to an accelerator, and the other 10%, they look for all kinds of accelerators around the world. So there is no real competing at this stage, and so we're dragging on. But pretty quickly, I learned myself that if I share the good stories and the bad stories, things that we have been through, and have a bunch of mentors who do similar things, that this is interesting. But unfortunately, we also realized there is no mega impact. And I happen to know actually a bunch of people from Stanford University, and we talked about learning and educating and why at some point in time, all the school systems created curriculums or curricula to actually bring the knowledge forward in a more organized way, and bring it forward in a way that one scholar could actually do the same thing than another one maybe 10 years later. And so we started to develop a curriculum for the accelerator and made it more like a training class, which I actually didn't like in the beginning. But then the way we structured it, we realized the success rate jumped up, straight through the roof. And we got right with actually once we started then with the first accelerator, we got a great success because we got 50% of the graduates basically funded, external funding from investors, not from ourselves. And that was a sign of success for us, and also obviously for the attendees. And in 2015, we were listed on the top 100 list of globally most influential accelerators, which was obviously great. It was from a British organization that belongs to actually the largest publisher in the UK, so it has some serious background, and I was proud that we made it there. And we ran 6 accelerators so far. Actually, now it's the 7th. And in these 6 accelerators, we continued with that high success rate of 50% funding rate. which is higher than pretty much any accelerator. We didn't invest in the time to look for, you know, who may be better than us. But we looked for the big names. I personally met David McClure from 500 Startups, and Altman from Y Combinator, and a bunch of other accelerators. And so we exchanged and compared notes, and, you know, shared what we thought and what we need to do and so on, because we all want to do a great job, of course. And so I know that our success rate is higher than any of them I know. And with that, in 2018, actually in 2017, I was kind of struggling, because we were, on average, we were 10. I think the biggest flight was 27 people, and that was almost too much. And scalability was certainly one of the biggest issues. And in 2017, I sat down with Mathis, thinking about what can we do to make it not only a curriculum that gets more, or better knowledge transfer, but actually scalable, so that other can teach based on the curriculum, and me just being sort of one of the guys on the side and, you know, telling stories and so forth, and we'll find other people who can do that. And so we did that. And so we forked basically into two paths. One was, we said we want to do that on a global scale, so that we're through the World Innovations Forum. We have representation in over 20 countries now, and we want to get into all these countries to help start the accelerator there with local people, but with our concept. And that is undergoing right now. We will probably have the first accelerators running in 2019, and more in 2020, 21, 22 to come. But we also want to get a better feel for how to globally do that. And we decided to make this online. And it isn't actually the first time. Excuse me. It's the second time, because the very first accelerator we ran in San Francisco was an online accelerator, because we said, you know, why just people from San Francisco? They're blessed anyway. Let's have people from all over the US. And it was still US driven, but you know, we felt this is a good idea, and it was a good idea. But we also realized that it's a tit better if we're all in one room and work together and feel us and see us and so forth. But it worked well. Now, coming back to 2017, we said, you know what? It isn't the best thing in the world to make it online. It's second best, clearly. But we cannot get millions of startups into San Francisco. That's impossible. So if they can't get anything, then doing it online is absolutely better than nothing, and probably better than, you know, kind of hand-wired programs and people running around in the local businesses and share their local knowledge, because it still is local knowledge. It's it's not that spirit that we have in Silicon Valley. And so we run the first accelerator actually in a couple of weeks, and we moderate it from Europe, because it actually doesn't matter now where we are. There are 5 core modules in that accelerator, and we will talk about, actually it's now 6, and we'll talk about it in a couple seconds. But what I want to allude to is that one piece that you see in the middle, spirit, mindset, and culture. And I think we will need to make it even bigger here on the slide than we have it right now, because this is the ultimate difference between Silicon Valley and the rest of the world. I mean, the rest of the world pounds, I mean, literally billions of dollars in innovation. Yet they have not to see, they have to see the outcome. And clearly, I mean, there is nothing on the horizon where you can say, okay, now this country or that country or this community or that city or, you know, whatever is bringing forward, I mean, brilliant brilliant innovation, brilliant entrepreneurs, and brilliant startups. And the reason is that pretty much the rest of the world thinks in terms of innovation, you need to pour even more billions into it. Then it's all about technology. Everybody focuses on the technology. You know, how cool is that technology versus other technologies? And people forget that most of the Silicon Valley technologies are also seen in the rest of the world. I mean, think about it. We have Facebook and LinkedIn and all these social media tools that are basically used all over the world. But at the same time, when they started, others started too. There's a German social network called Xing, X-I-N-G. It still exists, but it's a local one. It's basically in Germany, and so then there's a couple of other countries that use that too. Interestingly enough, Xing was the first social media company to do an IPO. So I thought back then, wow, I mean, maybe something is changing now, because now they not only have a good product, but they also get the funding to do that. But they still didn't make it. And when we analyzed why, and we did this with many, many companies, we always came back to the same issue: spirit, mindset, and culture. The culture in Germany or in the rest of the world isn't as open as it is in Silicon Valley. The mindset is very different. I mean, they compete for all kinds of thinking, and it's so complicated. And this is something, I mean, I am German, so I can say that Germans love to make it complicated, because this shows the complexity of something. I mean, give me a break. This is not necessary. So therefore, you know, what we as an accelerator need to do is help to create that spirit. If we take it outside San Francisco, meaning outside Silicon Valley, we need to help create that spirit, that mindset, and the culture working together that is basically similar to there. And as this will evolve, obviously this will evolve on a global scale. The focus of the accelerator is clearly tech, and this has to do with us founders and the people around us. They're all tech guys, so we're not good at pharmaceutical, at biotech, and healthcare, and in all these other spaces. And there is some industry knowledge necessary to make an accelerator really fly, actually, company. So, and as I said, there were six accelerator batches so far. We had roughly 30 teams. Out of them, 50 graduated, and all of them actually got funded. So that was really great. 5+1 is because one was a refugee accelerator. When we moved back to Europe in 2016, after being roughly 20 years in the Valley, and we saw the refugee issue, we said, well, some of them actually may want to not only work, so want to actually start their own business. And somebody came and said, you know, we're building a platform to help refugees find business of companies who are, so to speak, refugee friendly. And I said, hey, this is a great idea. Definitely want to support you. And we did. And I said, you know, if you know others. And I said, you know, the biggest problem is we don't really know how to run a business in Germany. And I said, you know what, here we go. We built an accelerator for refugees. It was a great experience, I have to say. They were very smart people. But there were also people, obviously, who were completely overloaded with what's going on in a modern society. So it was interesting to see, I mean, this huge bandwidth of skills and again, also cultural and mindset and intellectual powers and so forth. So, and yeah, this is with where you want to go forward. And I want to talk a little bit about skills and mindsets and so on further. Because I got oftentimes asked, you know, what is the actual selection process, you know, in accelerators, particularly in yours, but obviously we're most likely not very different than others. So the first thing is team, team, team. I mean, we're looking for smart, intelligent, open-minded, super guys, of course. The team is the most important thing. We do not take solopreneurs. We do not invest in solopreneurs, at least in the US. No, I mean, professional investor invests in solopreneurs. And this is not, we don't like that or something like that, but simply the pattern has shown there has been no single entrepreneur in the last 35 years or so that has become successful. The world is too complex, running a business is too complex, and we have to run even faster. So we haven't seen anybody who has that super brain, and probably it's not a good idea anyway. Because if you have somebody with a super brain, you know, also make that focus. I mean, nature tells us that specialization is what makes the survival process actually work. And so from that learning, we also came to the conclusion, I mean, we human beings, you know, a team makes the best sense. Somebody who is really on the technology side and can build, you know, like a god, somebody who is on the sales and marketing side, who can sell and market, you know, to the end of the day, and somebody who's keeping the business together, the finances, and really the driver for everything that's going on. That's a dream team, but it must be at least two. The other thing we're looking for is mindset. So what is going on in your mind? Is it just, oh, I want to get rich and I want to get rich fast? Or are you one of the, as we call them, accelerator tourists? Accelerator tourism is you know, it's a great place to be. It's, you hop from one accelerator to the next, and there are so many out there that you can live for a couple of years just going from one accelerator to another. And there are people who are doing that. And, you know, if you are one of them, you know, good luck. That's great, great entertainment, but we're not looking for that. Competitiveness is something. So how long and how hard would you fight for, you know, getting your idea all the way to the top? Not just, oh, I'm building it and having good time, and okay, sure, if somebody gives me a couple million, then I will sell it right away. That would not be the mindset we're looking for, because we want to develop startups, companies that have a bold vision, have a grand idea, and actually go for that all the way to the top and make it a real economic success. Not only for yourself, obviously, you will have an amazing economic success when you get there, but also an economic success for your country, for the city and the state where you live in. And what it takes is not just passion. I mean, people say, oh yeah, you need to have passion to do that. I'm working on a book and I have a subtitle. Passion is for pussycats. It takes obsession. And obsession is something that is on the borderline from totally crazy to absolutely absurd. And this is where you need to be as a successful entrepreneur. When an idea obsesses you, takes complete control over you, you can't do anything other than making this idea work, this is a good state to be in. And if you don't feel that obsession, you know, think of something else. I mean, you know, you can say, obviously, oh, you know, I'm young, I can do this, I can do that. Obviously you can, but time flies by and you're 30 and you dabbled around with this and that and tried this and that, and then try something else. And then people said, okay, what did you do prior to this? Well, actually, you know, I played this and I tried that and worked on this. But then people get kind of suspicious, say, okay, so what tells me as an investor or as a large company who is supposed to try this product now that it is not just yet another one, try this and try that? So try to come up with what is it, what you really want to drive forward, and is it obsessing you? Is it consuming you to a degree that you can't think something else? That this is the only thing that occupies your mind. That's a good state again. Willing to work at top speed for the next of the rest of your life, I want to say, but at least for a couple of years. And top speed meaning, okay, you get up, you do your thing, you work hard in apostrophe because, I mean, entrepreneurs never work hard. I mean, I started a couple companies, 4 to be exact, and now this what we're doing is the 5th one. And I never worked hard because it was always fun. I loved it. And, you know, when I had this idea of doing this or that, then I was completely in it. And I worked till 2 o'clock at night and got up in the morning and next night again. And my wife sometimes says, oh, you know, it's 2 o'clock. But she knows, and and it's totally okay. And, you know, we're working together. So obviously it's okay. But this is not hard work. I mean, it's a lot of work, and you know, you need more people. But you know, some of the things that just, you know, your brain just spins out new things that need to be done, and that's cool. So if you work at top speed and bring your stuff to market quickly and quickly again and again and again, this is something you need to know. Then we're looking for companies who have actually an MVP or prototype or something like that, so to speak, a technology to review for customers. And most of the startups that came to us said, well, I'm all good with everything else, but you know, the product is not ready to get to the customer. I can tell you this. If you think so, you're not sure, but you believe, and therefore, you know, it's just not there yet. I'll work with you individually to tell you that it's ready. And we'll there's a couple things you should know, but you know, time of this program doesn't allow this. But we make your product ready in the first 2 weeks of the accelerator. Then market validation with prospective customers. What you can do for yourself, not for us, but we want to see it too, is that prospective customers validated what you do and said, well, yeah, I would buy that. And the very easy way, it doesn't cost you anything other than a little time, is to talk to at least 23 people who are not your friends, who you possibly know but necessarily not need to know, who are prospective customers for what you do, and get their feedback, what they think. Why is this the greatest product on earth, so to speak? Why is it something that they really would love to have? And make good notes, and this is a good starting point also for our selection process. And not just ours, it's not really the selection process of us, it's the selection process of the market. And if you don't know yet if customers will be interested, well, then find out, please. It takes probably 2 to 3 weeks to do that. It's another little piece of work you have to grind through, but you get enormous feedback. And one of my best feedback I got once, this was in Silicon Valley, we were actually trying a new product. And my investor said, you know, figure out what the market says. I mean, I don't know, it's kind of cute, but let the market aside. And I said, yeah, but it's not ready. I mean, I can just, he said, yeah, you know, forget, you know me, forget this. Talk to your people, you know, take a piece of paper and show what it will be. And we had a little prototype, but it was absolutely not ready to the market. And, but I had to give it out, and so I did. And so people came back and said, hey, there's something. I really like the concept. I mean, obviously the product at the stage, you know, the UI is ugly, it's not intuitive. I mean, the whole thing looks like crap, but I think you have something very cool. You should do this, this, and that. And at this moment, I realized the so-called early adapters, these are the people who love to play with brand new bleeding edge products. They love the situation that it's not ready, it's not quality, it's not all of this what we typically expect, but it's something that has something very cool. And the reason why they like it is because now they can start to put their brand on it. They can say, well, do this, and I suggest you do that. And if you listen carefully and actually do what they say, you know, that would be your next customer, but way more than a customer, it would be your advocate. But if your product is already shining and good quality and everything, they say, yeah, it's cool or it's not cool. They care less. I mean, you know, it's obviously ready, so why even ask? So I realized that finding out, you know, at at or before the MVP state, what is it what you have for a customer is absolutely substantial. And then do a global market research. I mean, particularly here in Europe, people are from Europe, from Asia on that call. Most have not English as their native English, so they search possibly in their local language. And obviously everything they get back is that people write about in their local language. And that is the most terrible thing for research for any startup on the planet. Search in English. You don't have to search in all the languages that exist on the globe. But if you know there is, I mean, if you would do a new way of doing wine, well, you would need to search French and Italian and obviously English, because we have on one side of the world we have Napa Valley, and then on the other side we have Australia. But in this case, you know, French and Italian are so strong, old, dominant wine producers, so their language counts too. But definitely look globally what your product does, because I've seen it over and over again. People come to the accelerator and they said, you know, we're the only one, and yada, yada, yada. And then I look up the web, and or Marita does this, or somebody in the team, and then we find out, oh, wow, there's a whole slew of products very similar. And then we go back and then, oh God, I have never seen that. You know, that can't work that way. And then we're looking for smart and energetic marketing. And these people need to be on your team. If you hire them, well, then hire them first and then, so to speak, come back. You need to have somebody who can do that, because the accelerator, as the name says, accelerates your business. It's not just time to learn something for the future. You're learning probably something, but you're learning one thing, and this is the one thing that you really learn: to do the right thing at the right time, immediately, starting, and pound on the market as fast and as hard as you can. And if you don't have anybody doing that, then the whole accelerator would be a moot point, because that's what we're actually doing. We had one startup, this was sort of one of the most extreme. They came to us and said, yep, we're having here our business plan, and this was in 2016. We want to be in the market in 2019. The 3 years is something that we need. You know, the technology we developed is so complex, and I understood it was a really complex thing, but it needs that time. And I said, okay, guys, I fully understand. But when you come in 2016, and this was summer, you will need to be in the market by Christmas. You will need to have sold at least one single product by Christmas this year, not in 19, in 16. And they said, this is impossible. This is technically impossible, physically impossible. To make a long story short, they did their first sale. It was one product only, but it was one product, and they sold it against money, against cash, and not to somebody they knew. It was actually an organization who purchased it. And I also said, you know, going international in 2022 doesn't work for me. If you sell the first product in 16, you will try to get into the next country end of 17, early 18. So they're in 2 countries right now, entering into UK, I think, end of this year. Coming back to speed, this is what you probably get from the accelerator. It isn't some mega tricks. I mean, there are a lot of tricks, of course, and you can read this in books. You don't need to get to us. But you learn under real-time conditions to do things that were absolutely impossible for you to consider. And I do nothing that somebody else couldn't do. And I do that because I went through that same process with my investors back in 2000 when we started our company in Silicon Valley. They asked me to do things that I couldn't believe were possible. And I spoke to many other startups, and they said, yeah, these assholes, they do that to us. And I was kind of, you know, yeah, assholes is a good word, but I mean, they make us to do things that nobody else on the globe would do. I started 2 actually very successful companies in Europe, but there was absolutely nobody who drove me the way the investors in the Valley drove me. And not just me, I mean, everybody there. And this goes back to mindset and style and spirit and culture. It is a culture of high-speed business. And this is just not one person, this is the culture. And this is what we want to create too. And this is what we created actually with all the startups in our existing accelerator. So here, really quickly, top 8 things that you need to consider when you do anything with us. Have a business case that solves a serious problem. I mean, we see apps that say, well, there's not really a problem, but this is something that would be very cool if people have that. Well, if there is nothing that improves it significantly what they do today, well, the risk is that the product is a quote unquote nice to have. And there are gazillions of nice to haves. I mean, wouldn't it be cool if kind of approach? But that is not something that warrants a company, so to speak. But oftentimes also, you may not be aware that what you're doing is actually solving a great problem. You just, and this is one of the deficiencies of our mind, is that we may know this or we may heard about it, but we're not bold enough to get to it. And that's something we're happy to help you. But boldness obviously is required to do that. The second thing, a vision, where you want to take the company in the next few years. What is the importance of that company? It's not just a product, it's a whole company. Company stands for multiple people. So you will have not just employees, you will have business partners, you will have suppliers who contribute to that, the market, of course, and so on. But where do you want to take it? And the vision is something most people are very weak on, because we say, what is in 10 years? I don't know. I mean, come on, look back 10 years. So what was in 2008? There was an economic crisis and we did this and that. Nobody was talking about AI. Nobody was talking about cryptocurrency and so on. Well, what was in 2008? AI already existed. Cryptocurrency was just actually brought into the market. And it took 10 years, of course, to get there. But if we would have talked to people, what is this fucking thing, excuse my language, doing, then we would got an idea where this can go. And so the vision development is one of the core elements of the accelerator, because when you create a vision for your company and your product and your team that goes actually for the next 10 years, which you can, I know. I mean, I have yet to see a person who couldn't get to that point. If you can develop that vision and tell your investors or top-notch team members that you want to get to your company and work for peanuts, basically, or who could have a brilliant scientist or management job somewhere, you will have to have a vision. And there is nothing on this planet today, absolutely nothing, that will be mainstream top-notch in 10 years from now that doesn't exist today, because it's already cooking and we will need to find out where is it cooking, and this is something where we help you. So in 2028, there will be products on the market, stunning. People say, yeah, I didn't see that coming. No, you didn't see it coming, of course not. But it was already developed in maybe 2010, maybe 2015, maybe 2018. The other thing is the robust team, ideally 3 to 5 people who can wisely engage in everything you're doing in business growth and turn your company quickly into a super success. Now, we're talking about global multiple times. And I want to make sure you know, we're not seeing global as the, oh gosh, this guy's crazy. I'm totally okay if we're successful in our country. Well, the reality is there is either a purely local business, if you decide to build a pizzeria or a local service, and this is all good. Don't take me wrong. This is what our our world makes go round, fine. But if you build a product, take most of the technology products that have been developed also in Europe and Asia before, and now look 10 years later where they stand. They were either purchased or they went under or they were shut down. They were basically take apart, or they dabble basically, more bad than good along the side. There is nothing that works global that can be done local only. If it works global, then it will go global. And if it's not you, it's somebody else. And investors have no idea and no interest whether you think it's good or bad. It doesn't matter, because we all know if it can go global, it will go global. And if it's not you, then somebody else. If you are not interested in taking your company global, then you're not interesting for investors. And that makes it hard for us to invest time and resources to help you do something that doesn't go anywhere anyway. So that's something that needs to get branded in your mind. Then, as I said earlier, proven market validation from at least 23 people. That's absolutely critical. The most critical part is you yourself. I mean, you need to know that what you do, where you drag in other people and get maybe from friends and families money, that you know, okay, there is a potential market. This is a valid idea for a valid market. Then the next point that we're looking for, that you need to work on one way or the other, is potential for a disruptive business model. And we formulated disruption a couple, 2 or 3, 4 years ago. It wasn't that long time ago. We said, what is actually the characteristic of disruptive business models? What is disrupting? Disrupting is, in the original sense, when you do something and somebody steps in and takes everything apart. So this is very disruptive. So it's almost destructive, but not necessarily. I mean, when a bushfire breaks out and ruins the whole forest, that's disruptive, and it's in a way destructive. But there comes new trees and new flowers and new things forward that could never grow that well without the bushfire in the first place. So it's one of these, hard things to believe. And a disruptive business model is when you basically force all your different competitors to react on your disruption. So when you come with a business model in the market and your competitor don't care and say, so what, okay, will not harm us, then it's not disruptive. But if your business model changes the way your competitors work, that is disruptive. And when I started Computer 2000, this was my first company. It was a distributor company. It wasn't even a tech company. We said distribution doesn't work the way it is today. I mean, it works obviously, but it's not working well enough. We will sell exclusively to reselling companies that take the product we distribute and then resell it to somewhere else, but not end consumer, and not just the consumer, but also end customers. And end customer can be large enterprises like BASF and Mercedes-Benz and British Airlines and so forth. And people didn't believe this is working, but once we got it to work, and people believe that this is the best thing, that could happen to them as a reseller, particularly because all of a sudden we brought loyalty and a streamlined business to this market. Every other distributor had to follow our model, and we became the second largest in the world, the largest in Europe, and this was a disruptive business model. And when we started with Blue Roads, we had a disruptive technology, but it was the SaaS model. And this was in 2000, so SaaS was just born from I mean, the term from Salesforce.com, and it was a disruptive business model because all our competitors' channel marketing products, dealer registration products, and everything what was out there was classic, and we were SaaS. So this was a disruptive business model. I mean, we were the last one entering this market, and we had huge competitors, and we became the market leader after 5 years because we disrupted the market faster than they could actually adopt it. So that's something we're looking into, and we're the only, still I believe, the only accelerator who actually trains creating a disruptive business model, because it was the other thing that was a big challenge for me. How can we actually do that? How can we prove it, and how can we probe it and test it and so forth? And we're very happy with the last accelerator. Every team actually created a disruptive business model. And the one that said, you know, we need to take till 2019 to get to market, actually did in a brilliant way. And their competitors are multi-billion-dollar global conglomerates. So I can't wait how to see this going over the next couple of years. A clear answer why your technology will make all the difference. You have to have that answer, because it's the customers who will require this answer. And if you have a good answer for the customers, then, you know, investors will say, oh, wow, yeah, I can see that. Or, you know, in the worst case, they cannot. Running a minimum viable product, we talked about that. And a sound technology and technology experts who really understands what you're actually building. And this point is primarily for those who said, well, we outsource the development. There's a long story behind it. You can technically, obviously, you can outsource your first prototype from some developing shop, but you cannot. A company would not work with an outsourced product development. You will get daily inputs for the next 5 years on every single day. You will get inputs, 100% sure. And you will have to have people who build this constantly. I mean, every single day. You can't outsource this. It would kill you. I mean, the cost would kill you. And it's part of the mindset. It may be a cheap start, but no investor would really like you to do that. So that's something we would need to work on. So real quick, this is our portfolio, and all these companies are really great companies. I mean, one that came basically real as a surprise was the third on the top. So this is in alphabetical order. Docademic. They made a platform for doctors and patients. And patients and doctors can exchange on a platform publicly. The patients, basically, when they sign up, they testify, yes, this is okay, that this is public. And they made it through. They came from Mexico. Charles, the founder, is actually from New York. And a couple of weeks ago, they were mentioned on the cover page of Mexican Forbes as the next potential unicorn. So that was a great thing. I mean, we were totally surprised. I mean, we know they did a good job, but that was really cool. But other than that, I can tell you from all the companies what they do in particular different and well, so that they can stand out of the crowd, so to speak. And, you know, when you come, we hope to put you there too. So real quick about the accelerator itself, and this is sort of the core thing. What we're doing lies in the very fine formulated program. So it's a 6-step program. The 6th step was actually the going global part that we put finally in. Sorry, I need to still learn to do a PowerPoint. So vision, purpose, and team is the first section. We start with the vision, because if your vision is weak, everything else will be weak too. And you will see the methodology behind the program. One builds on the other. And if one that you had before is not built well, everything else will not be really, really good. And that sequence is particularly important because if you do this in real time, in real life with your company, which we actually will do, you will notice that if one doesn't really work out well, the other is weak, and it gets weaker and weaker and weaker. And the last thing that is really weak then is your fundraising. And when you struggle with fundraising, trust me, it's not your pitch. 100% not. It's the sequence of how you build your company. When we say, and you will hear many investors say, tell us your story. It's all about the story. Well, this is your story. The story is these 6 or actually 5 steps for your presentation. If any of this is weak, you will have a hard time. I heard a startup say, well, I did 100 pitches before I get finally funded. And I asked him, I said, 100? I mean, this is more than insane. I mean, you spend more time pitching than building your company. And he said, yeah, the one thing was, it was insane, but it was actually good in a way. It took 2 years, by the way, because now I changed the company a lot based on all these feedbacks. And I thought, wow, this is brutal. So if we can do it in 3 months, that's much better. And so the vision, if your vision is weak, if you cannot articulate where the company will be in the next 10 years, why will your business model be brilliant? Because you don't even know where you go. So you can do it for the here and now, and that is okay, and this will be okay, but it's not brilliant. When you then build the go-to-market strategy, you can do it for here and now, but if you cannot explain to your customers why a company is something extraordinary, I mean, literally extraordinary, not just good, but absolutely sensational, well, because your vision is not there and the disruptive business model doesn't exist, well, your go-to-market strategy will suck. If you start a go-to-market strategy before your business model is ready, it doesn't work that way, because you have a go-to-market strategy, but you don't even know how to sell it and what kind of methods and what kind of services and so on behind. Now, when these 3 things are well done, you have a clear perspective where you go, you have a disruptive business model, you have a go-to-market strategy, and you know how to execute. Only then you can work on traction. Because when you work on traction and growth models and growth hacking, I mean, you know where you go, you know your business model, you have a go-to-market strategy. Now you can develop traction like crazy. But if any of the others are weak, the traction will be weak. Now, when you have that done, you will obviously can go global, because if that works all out, so now go into other countries. But how fast do you do that? How bold are you to go? And if you go alone, obviously I mean, I did this 3 times. This was always hard. But now with organizations like us, with partners in 20 countries, well, wow, yeah, you use them. Oh, where do you want to go? Vietnam? Cool, yeah, we have somebody in Vietnam who has an accelerator there, has a co-working space. Go to the co-working space for a couple of weeks and, get to know what's going on in Vietnam. Done, boom. You want to go to Korea? No problem, go to Korea. I call Felix and let him know that we have a candidate. You go to the startup hub Korea, Seoul. You get a space there. We can organize this. We can organize a couple meetings with people, with customers. Get somebody in from from the organization's perspective. What it takes to build a company there and so forth. Done. Boom. All you need to have is a $6 flight to Seoul. Get into the co-working space. Have a moderate room to stay for a week or 2, and that's it. So we can do that faster than ever before possible, not because the knowledge or anything, because we as an organization put our network to play specifically for that. I mean, mentors say, yeah, I have a lot of contacts. Okay, nice. How important are they? I don't know. Are they from this industry? I don't know. Are they from, and so forth. I can tell you none of the contacts we have may be specifically in your particular industry, but we have contacts in across the planet, basically in all continents, where we can send you and we can arrange for and then find the necessary connection that you need. So then the last part is how to capitalize your business. And it's not about fundraising. Fundraising is pitching a good story. You know, everybody can do that. No problem. And if you get a good pitch training, you can do that and finish. But you will lose your company with about 70% probability if you don't understand how you capitalize your company. And I make this break very purposeful. If you don't understand that, there's a high risk for you that you lose your company. And many companies are lost that way. Because if you give too much money in the seed round and yet another little too many percentages in the A round and maybe in the B round, in the C round, you're below 50% ownership. And if you don't control your company anymore, an investor is an investor is an investor and not an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is a risk taker by purpose. An investor is risk averse by purpose. Now, if the risk averse person runs a young company not taking risks anymore, they cannot fly, cannot. The company will be dead. And when we see that 90% of the startups don't survive, there's a big percentage is that they didn't understand capitalization. And I have numerous examples we go through in the accelerator. What actually happened? What did they do wrong that they lost everything, even though they had $100 million exit? But the entrepreneurs didn't get anything. That's one thing. The company wasn't sold, wasn't sellable anymore because the competition was too strong and there was just no interest in it. Couldn't. And so forth and so forth. So that is a very critical part, which we'll go to. And the Global Accelerator program itself, so we will do weekly or bi-weekly sessions online. So very similar to what we do today. I'm talking a little bit, obviously not quite as much as today. And we will have interactions. You have questions, you raise your hand. We will see you in the video as well, not just the presentation, and so forth. And during the week, you will work on the various tasks to accelerate your business. So the accelerator is not a learning program. I need to make this very explicit. I mean, you learn something, of course, but you will do. I mean, when we say we want to make sure that the vision is crystal clear by the end of next week, then you have to have a crystal clear vision by the end of next week. And we will tell you how to do that. And we will work with you if you get stuck, and you will get stuck on the second day probably. You know, shoot me a Skype call or something, and we will work on it. In the second week of the first 2 weeks for that first topic, you will have a video where one of your teammates will interview you and say, hey, you know, Joe, so your company is now 10 years old. You're just went public yesterday. So tell us what happened. And now you will be needing to write or to tell the audience what happened in the past 10 years. What was it that got you to the point where you are? And the one thing that is forbidden in this video is, oh, we had more and more and more revenue. Of course, I mean, very clearly, and you will have more customers and everybody loves you. But what happened in the world that got you there? You know, competition, legal situations changing, you know, things in the world market is shifting, competitors do this and that, new technologies come in that doesn't exist today. And we will help you to find out all these answers to those questions. So during the week, you will work, and you will work very intensely on the program. And so the balance between, wow, I mean, if I do nothing but accelerator, then I can't really work at that time. Yes, that's true. But if you take, you know, basically 3 months off, and make everything ready for a brilliant company, then you saved yourself probably a year. And think long term rather than, but I need to do this week, and I promised this other meeting, and I promised to talk to this guy, and I promised to talk to that guy, and to this guy, and to that guy. You will also learn managing your time. A lot of people will want to talk to you, and learning to say no is a not easy task, but you will learn that. Then in the weekly sessions, we have time for you to present, and we will have always small accelerator groups. So when you present, everybody else is listening. Those who are not interested in listening to others, it's better to not come to the accelerator in the first place, because if it's all about you, then it will be all about you for the rest of your life, and that is not working for a company. So you need to learn from others for the rest of your life as much as humanly possible. And if the time where you learn from other entrepreneurs is available, you will need to make that time, because this is the biggest and best learning you can ever get. Obviously, the learning from other customers is the next big business, but from other entrepreneurs, how they think, what they do, and so forth. Think about if you would have been in the accelerator today together with Mark Benioff, the CEO from Salesforce, and Bill Gates from Microsoft, and you learn everything from them. You would say, oh yeah, sure I would. Yeah, in retrospect you would. But we will all get that way. And you should connect frequently with your local mentors. So we will be probably candidates from 10, 15 countries in this accelerator. So most are from some local place, and we will have our ambassadors there. And so connect with them as mentors. I mean, they're, I think, let me think. I believe they're all successful entrepreneurs. So they have their company, ran their company, sold it, or still run it. So, you have good buddies on your side, so to speak, that help you get going. And then at high speed, you will develop your vision, a disruptive business model, a zero budget marketing strategy, traction with 1% growth every single day. That's the magic. And the good news is the first 100 days in a year, you will not even notice any traction. Well, that's okay. But if you get your team on 1% every single day, and after 100 days, they are onto that mode. And this is the critical thing. When they think 1% growth per day for the rest of the next 5 to 10 years, well, then you will make it. Because you will get, if we take users, you will be at about 50, 80,000 users in the first couple months. You will get to million users. We get to billion users in probably 4 to 5 years, 6 years, and that's the way you want to go. All right. Oops, sorry. And here is a venture model that we're working on, just so you know. So we will start with acceleration, and as you see on the bottom line, for us, this is the best way to do due diligence. And then the venture investment comes after the accelerator. So not just us, but also external investors. And this is the beauty about, and one of our success, I don't want to say secrets, but one part of our success is that when they know, and the investors we talk to, they know what we do. And if you present and they know what they have been through, they have a so much higher likelihood of success, so that they will invest in you before they will invest in others. And then there's the development stage, and this is probably the next 10 years. This is so basically a typical time to an IPO. And we're getting you global, and that is one of the things why we are fully believing that every single alumni from us can actually go public in 10 years, because we believe that the infrastructure need to be made as easy as possible. But if on top of that infrastructure running brilliant people, I mean, no reason why we can't get IPOs in the rest of the world. So here a little bit about the team. I hate starting with me. Why is this? Okay, this is alphabetical order, I believe. Is this? Yeah, probably. Then Manuela, Marita, you've heard and seen. Mates, Rob is an analyst and support guy, and he's doing in the background everything possible. And then we have a few people. They're still all in the US, and we will need to add our international mentors to that list too. And that's basically who is behind that idea today. So these are our ambassadors in 27 countries. And these are basically the people you could go to and say, hey, help me find a co-working space I can rely on and get some industry connections. And I want to get in this country. We want to start our business there, and they will be there to help you. They're all volunteers, and they will volunteer as much as they can. But if it turns out to be sort of a real, okay, I need somebody who's doing this with me every day, so obviously you need to work on a consultant agreement, but that's off of our duties. This is up to everybody on their own. And some may actually work with you on a pro bono base. Some will take maybe some options as potential shareholders. Others will just ask for cash. But the start, and that's the most important thing, they will volunteer to help you get there. Okay. So now basically get involved with us, and we'll conquer the world together. I think we can, and it's worth doing. And for us, this is why we exist, and this is basically our version of giving back as successful entrepreneurs, trying to help you become a successful entrepreneur too. And clearly, without my mentors, I would have never been able to do what I did. And you know, Computer 2000 grew to 5 billion in revenue when we merged it with Tech Data. Infinigate, the other company, I'm still on the board. We're at a little over $500 million revenue. We're growing it to 1 to 2 in the next 5 years. Blue Roads became a market leader after 5 years in the US. So, but all of this wouldn't be possible just me and myself, or me and Marita. I had very powerful mentors, and I was selective. Some said, oh, sorry, I have no time. I understood. Got back maybe half year later or a year, and most of them actually became my mentors down the road. With
Thank
that,
you.
I want to give it back to Mathis.
Yeah, thank you very, very much, Axel, for this introduction. I always like hearing that, and always gives me a certain mindset and work on my own ideas again. There are a couple of questions, and I like to put ask them like the first on behalf of the audience as a kind of icebreaker. There's a book called 0 to 1, and with that book come two questions. It's a book from Peter Thiel. First, why doing an accelerator when you can just read a book? And second, what is it about going global? Because Peter Thiel says you better start local. So can you tackle these two questions, please?
Sure. So maybe I start with the first. I mean, yes, you can read a ton of books, and you should. Absolutely. I'm writing a book right now, and it's basically the whole content from the accelerator. So if it would be about, you know, scrutinizing my own work, I wouldn't do it. But no, I want to get the knowledge out, and I want to help others. This is the purpose. But there is a reason for being in an accelerator, and this is the, let me call it the kick-ass reason. I mean, all of us human beings, no matter how successful we are, how experienced we are, how old we are, we need to get a kick once in a while. We absolutely have to. And there's no human I know, and I know a couple of very powerful people, who would work without that kick. And the accelerator is about kicking you every day, every week, to get to something that you couldn't believe you would get to, and realize that this kick is absolutely necessary. Of course, it's you that do it. Of course, it's your ideas that we will help, get out of your brain, but it's still your idea, it's your decisions, everything is yours. But the kick is something that you will need. And the whole idea of the accelerator was basically from all of us who did that. I mean, also I joined sort of that faction of accelerators because I, like everybody else in this business, realized all of us couldn't do what we did, powerful things, without others who help us get there. And that's the only reason. And if you think you can do it on your own, give it a try. I mean, nothing wrong with it. But if you know that, it would be helpful, somebody who's working with me, well, then that's us or somebody else. I mean, any other accelerator, of course, too. So the second is, and this is
why going global so fast? Why having a global?
Okay, that's a good question. So, as you know, Facebook has now 2 billion users, and Facebook is still racing. I mean, from really running fast against their competition in several countries, particularly in China. Even though we can put China aside for that discussion a little bit, because they would probably have no chance to get in there. But it shows that other countries, if they see what somebody does, they do that too. And if they do that too fast, and if they go global fast, then they will outperform you. And the reason why there is, sorry to say this, there is not a single European, Latin American, Asian, African company or Australian company in the world that has gone global, successful from their own. It shows that it's right now only one continent, it's North America, that brings global companies forward, and they are faster than everybody else, simply faster. But investors said to Mark Zuckerberg the other day, I mean, quite a while ago, what could have been done for them to go global faster, because they saw all this competition and they were simply copying Facebook. Sometimes even the UI was copied. And he said, we probably could have been faster if we knew that they get so fast. So competition grows fast. And so going global fast is basically to preempt the possibility of competition in other countries. And Facebook is only one. I mean, it has been a very public discussion, I think in 2010 or so, where they realized, well, they were not fast enough global, but it hits everybody. So, and honestly, I mean, with Computer 2000, we were running global very fast. I mean, faster than our investors actually wanted us. It was a fight in the board meetings. Why we told them why we have to be so fast, and it was good because if we wouldn't, somebody else would. I mean, simply because we could explains that somebody else could have done this too. Now, we were the fastest, and this is why we got the biggest. And so the experience on my own, I mean, with Infinigate, for instance, we didn't go as fast, and now we have very similar competitors in the rest of the world. We're actually thinking about now going global, but this is a very, very difficult time and a very difficult task. So I'm not sure we can, but that's something we're at least considering. But we didn't go fast enough in the beginning. So we know speed to market is, it's the defining moment for a company to go big.
Thank you very much, Axel, for these thoughts about going global. In addition to that, you mentioned your career and your success with Computer 2000. Some of the audience members ask about the experience with B2B companies from your side, from our team, and from the accelerator. Can you elaborate on that, please? So,
well, yeah, when you say B2B, I mean, I myself have been B2B most of my time. There's some B2C experience too, but there's an interesting sort of philosophy. I want to say philosophy rather than strategy. There is no B2B business left these days. If you look at the old B2B versus B2C definition, it was basically because in the B2B business, you had a purchase manager, you had a decision maker, project maker, a project manager, you had a budget and so on. And this is what the sales guy figured out. And if they did a good job, they nailed this with one order for maybe 1,000 employees or something like that. Versus in the B2C, you had to attract all the individual consumers. And so marketing and so forth was very, very different. Contract-wise, it's different because you have a consumer as a contract versus a legal entity and so forth. But in today's world, we know so much more about how to work with a company, and the company structures has changed so much. The old top-down model, manager says, well, we purchase Acer, or we purchase Samsung, or we purchase this or that. It doesn't work that way anymore. The team comes and says, well, we should do this or buy that. And then they constitute their thoughts, and there's a project team, and then finally the purchase manager is actually a very poor person because they just have to order it. They have no knowledge in the project anymore. It's also way too complex these days. And so in order to win a B2B business, you have to understand who are actually the decision makers. And these are consumers within this organization. You have to find them and you have to influence them if you can. You have to even talk to them. And companies who do that well, and a typical technique is social media. You find out who are the guys who are in the projects, and you find out in what groups are they, and to discuss, all kinds of problems and technologies, what's best for this, what's best for that, without telling what they do, but it's very apparent what they're looking for, and you connect with them, and this is how you get there. And this is more or less the same in the consumer business, because also in the consumer business, people are not buying what you with your marketing power say, they buy what others say. And others are influential people who blog, share, who do whatever they say. I'm on, on TripAdvisor, and I'm whatever, level 7, or I don't even know, kind of guy. But when I go in a hotel, I know this because somebody actually told me, said, oh, yeah. I shouldn't tell you, but we looked on TripAdvisor. You were pretty influential. Now when I sell a consumer product or a B2B product, I have, in both cases, I have sort of one influential group. The one are the bloggers and the TripAdvisor recommenders and so on, and the other is the project leads. And both drive from a small group, thousands of consumers, so to speak. And when you see that merger, that conversion from the sales perspective and from the marketing perspective, then you realize that the B2B and the B2C market are extremely similar. Obviously, you have to understand the mechanisms as they have grown, but therefore, that's it's another point we will obviously discuss about in the accelerator. But this is where the difference between B2B and B2C is actually getting, significantly smaller. It's still there. There's still other requirements and so on. But this is more I would say, legal, logistic mumbo jumbo than really business development and business driver factors. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And I'm really sorry for giving you a hard time asking another question. If I'd really like that, how do I apply? How much does it cost? And does it cost cash or equity?
Okay. Yeah, so you apply obviously on the website, and it is either cash or equity. So we have both models, and they're both on the website. So if you go to society3.com/accelerator, you will find it. And the equity model is we take 5% equity, but it's not options or any of this. We actually purchase the equity, so we pay cash. The valuation we apply is nominal value. So if you found your company with, whoever team at XYZ, and XYZ is 100%, and if you founded a $50,000 company or 5,000, doesn't matter. We take basically 5% of the company at the valuation that you put on yourself, and that's how we do the equity part. You will get us as an investor, which sometimes helps. You get obviously our mentorship, that helps probably even more, and you get obviously us on your back for a long time, and sometimes it's honestly painful. I mean, honestly, there were days where I hated my investors who were sitting my back, and I needed to do this and that and that and that. And I was arguing sometimes that, this or that is not really a priority for me. And if I was clear enough, then they said, okay, sure. I mean, you're the CEO. I mean, it's just for us. We think it's a priority, but you need to decide at the end. But that doesn't feel good for somebody who is basically telling the investors that they, go away because it's not my priority. But it needs to be done as well. But in the rest, and now in retrospect, I mean, years later, I mean, clearly I would have been, I would have been nowhere without all the everything that was provided around me. And I had a good chat with my investor 2 years ago, and he said, actually, what was always fascinating with you, you took advice. Sometimes you did it, sometimes you did not. You told us. You tell me that without us, you wouldn't be where you are. But I can tell you, well, it's probably true. But you always made it. It was always your thing. And if you help other startups one day in your life, so this was before the accelerator actually, understand that it is always their thing, not yours as an investor. And I thought, yeah, this is a good thing. And I mean, coming back to the payment, that's what you actually pay for. I mean, it's equity, as I said, or cash. I don't have it on top of my head. I mean, the cash part obviously is less of interest for us. I mean, if I would count my hours, and I do count my hours in some corporate projects, you would absolutely not be able to afford me. Now, in the accelerator, so we were going back and forth with the pricing. We started with 5,000. I said, no, I mean, I'm not doing it for that. I'm not a paid gun, so to speak. I mean, I want to help. That's what I want to do. But if I get paid, this is a bad idea. Now, I think at the current stage, it's 12,000 euro. And the reasoning is because if somebody doesn't want me on their camp, so to speak, but wants my knowledge, then yeah, you have to pay. But obviously the payment is very not attractive, and I purposely made it that way. But then I'm actually thinking we should take it off in the first place, so not sure yet. But these are the models right now. Yeah. Did that answer the question, Mathis? Did I lose you? Am I still on?
Sorry,
Looks like.
stupid mistake. I tried to be quiet in the background.
No
Didn't
problem.
happen. No. I haven't seen questions we haven't covered so far. I think it's a time for a final goodbye, or is there, Manuela, anything that's left? No, probably not. So from my side, there's a huge thank you for your thoughts on the accelerator, for your ideas on how to craft the vision, how to create a disruptive product, go to market, and finally find investors. I'm really looking forward to go this way with you and the next batch, the next team of super entrepreneurs. So for me, it's time to say stay tuned, and again, a huge thank you to you, Axel, and hopefully we will see each other or hear each other. Thank you very much.
Super. Thank you very much. Thanks everybody for joining, and hope I see one or the other in the next accelerator starting, I think, September 26th. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye from my side.
Bye-bye from my side.
So then we conclude, I guess.